I had just smashed the greatest home run of my life. As I sprinted around the bases, I didn't even glance at the ball as it soared over the outfielder's head. By the time I reached third base, the pitcher had recovered the ball. I was faced with a choice: play it safe or risk it all. I went for it. Charging toward home plate, I could see the pitcher fire the ball to the catcher with pinpoint precision. I slid in just before the ball landed in the catcher's mitt. The crowd erupted in cheers. I had done it. I had won the tournament for the team. In that moment, I, Wade Peters, was a hero. Then came the shrill sound of the alarm clock, pulling me from my dream. My eyes opened to the sight of a soft pink ceiling. The dream had ended. Now the nightmare began. I rolled out of my oversized pink bed, tossing aside the stuffed animals that had shared the night with me. I made my way to the pink dresser in the corner, opening the top drawer to browse through my collection of panties. I chose a delicate white pair with ruffles. Next, I slipped on a pair of white stockings, savoring the smooth feel of the silk as it glided over my hairless legs. In the bathroom, I began my morning routine. After brushing my teeth, I applied various skin-softening oils and creams to my face and followed that with a layer of women's deodorant under my arms. With my skin prepped, it was time for makeup. I pulled out my makeup kit from the closet and got to work. When I finished, I studied myself in the mirror. My long, curled eyelashes added a touch of femininity to my brown eyes, and my lips were generously coated in bright red lipstick. A hint of blush colored my cheeks, and foundation, along with bronzer, had smoothed out the rougher edges of my face. I was satisfied with the transformation. I turned my focus to my long black hair, carefully working to style it into the perfect high ponytail, aiming for that ideal feminine bounce. I patted it a few times, ensuring it had the right volume and softness. Pleased with the result, I stepped into my spacious walk-in closet to choose my school uniform. The closet was filled with an array of girly dresses and skirts. I settled on a blue skirt and a white blouse with long, flowing sleeves and frilled shoulders. I pulled the skirt snugly around my waist and buttoned up the blouse, moving on to the next piece of clothing. A pink jumper, embroidered with a male symbol on the back, went over the blouse, a subtle yet stinging reminder of my true identity. Finally, I grabbed a pink ribbon from the shelf and tied it into a large, floppy bow around my neck. With one last glance in the mirror, I adjusted my outfit, ensuring everything was perfectly in place. I slipped on a pair of black, glancing around my overly feminine room. The walls and ceiling were painted a soft, delicate pink. In one corner stood a full-sized bed, draped in a pink bedspread, adorned with fluffy pillows and stuffed animals, constant symbols of my prissy existence. A plush pink carpet covered the floor, and a large pink dresser against the wall served as yet another reminder of my ever-present femininity. On the wall hung a large mirror, concealing a hidden camera that captured my every move. It watched over me, ensuring I followed my feminine routine every morning, or else I'd face the consequences. I suppose I should explain my situation. For the past month, I've been attending the College for Brazen Males, or CBM. The existence of the CBM is entirely secret, but it operates within the same building as the prestigious School of Fashion and Design All Girls. At the CBM, boys are forced into an overly feminized lifestyle, enduring constant punishment and humiliation. The female students, along with the school's staff, are not only aware of our situation, but are actively encouraged to bully, haze, and torment us at will. I ended up at the CBM after my mother caught me smoking with friends near the baseball diamond. Believing this correctional school was the best way to reform me and make me a responsible member of society, she sent me here. When I first arrived at the school, I was taken aback by how grand and imposing it looked. The tall gates and sprawling grounds were impressive, but there was something unsettling about the atmosphere. I was one of 23 boys, and we were ushered into a large room without much explanation. As we stood there, waiting in silence, I started to sense that something wasn't quite right. The tension in the air felt heavy. Moments later, we were led through a door and into an auditorium. The sound hit me first, the deafening roar of jeering girls. The room was packed, and their mocking laughter and taunts echoed off the walls. We were forced to march down the rows, our heads down, and stand before them. At the front of the auditorium stood Miss Sandy, the school's headmistress, who radiated authority. She was holding something in her hand, a small item that each of us was made to receive. When my turn came, I was handed a pair of small, tight-fitting shorts. The humiliation sank in as we were ordered to put them on right there, in front of everyone. My cheeks burned with shame as we stood there, exposed and vulnerable, while the girls hurled insults and laughter at us without mercy. There was no escape from their eyes, no place to hide from the ridicule. It was in that moment I realized this school wasn't just about education. It was about control and submission, and I knew we were all in for a long, degrading experience. Later, we were taken to see the school beautician. She and her team of salon assistants proceeded to give each of us a full makeover. We were forced to undergo the complete removal of all body hair, followed by a feminine hairdo and full makeup. Every boy, including me, was mortified by the process, humiliated as our identities were stripped away, layer by layer. Once the makeovers were complete, we were handed our new school uniforms to change into. The facilities at CBM are undeniably extravagant, with a massive costuming warehouse filled with custom sissy outfits, many of which came directly from the mysterious institute. These outfits were absurdly frilled and ruffled, waiting to humiliate an unsuspecting boy. While the standard uniform consists of what I described earlier, skirts, blouses, and jumpers, there were times when Miss Sandy would announce a themed week. These weeks came with new outfits and, of course, new rules. I remember Stepford Week in particular, when we were forced into housewife dresses, complete with fluffy petticoats and pearl necklaces. We had to address every girl we encountered as ma'am, and spent the week cooking and serving meals to them during mealtimes, further reinforcing our submissive roles. Baby Week was by far the worst, a week of non-stop humiliation. We were forced into wearing multiple diapers, making it nearly impossible to walk normally. The girls took great pleasure in taunting us as we waddled down the hall, unable to escape their jeers. Every week, during each boy's disciplinary report, Miss Hall, the head of discipline, could add to our embarrassment by modifying our outfits if we had acted out. It was never just about staying out of trouble. The threat of further humiliation was always present. In addition to Miss Hall's modifications, any girl could request to sponsor a sissy, gaining the right to choose his outfit for an entire week. The constant changes, from one degrading outfit to another, meant we never had the chance to become numb to the shame. The girls and the staff ensured that we remained in a perpetual state of discomfort and humiliation. To make matters worse, the school regularly held tours for visitors who were guided through the halls to witness the sissified boys in all their degrading glory. Their laughter, their looks of shock and amusement, were a fresh reminder of our utter helplessness. Each new set of gazes chipped away at our sense of self, making sure our egos were never allowed to recover. The school operates on a strict mark system for discipline. A sissy earns a mark for any behavior that is deemed out of line or a failure to meet the school's absurdly high standards of etiquette. This could range from something as trivial as not chewing food 21 times before swallowing, to more obvious infractions like failing to properly apply makeup and beauty treatments, forgetting to curtsy before a superior, or neglecting any aspect of their weekly outfit. Every little misstep was counted against us. At the end of each week, we were required to report to Ms. Hall for a disciplinary evaluation. She would review both the surveillance footage of the sissy throughout the week, as well as any written marks submitted by the girls or teachers. These marks could be handed in at any time, and there was no limit to how many a sissy could accumulate. If a boy managed to receive very few marks, he was granted a rare boy day for the upcoming week. This meant, for one day, he would be allowed to wear male clothing provided by the school, a temporary but desperately sought-after reprieve from the endless feminine humiliation. If a boy accumulated too many marks, his punishment would be severe. Miss Hall would select a special outfit designed to be the most painful and exquisitely humiliating for the unfortunate sissy. Seasonal outfits were also part of the routine humiliation. On warm summer days, we were given the degrading option of dressing like spoiled teen girls, forced into crop tops and yoga pants that barely left anything to the imagination. One winter, a group of girls decided to bundle me up for the cold weather, dressing me in a fur pom-pom hat, mittens, a scarf, and a fur-framed dress with layer upon layer of petticoats. While the students attended regular high school classes, algebra, English, art, and of course, fashion, our curriculum was far more demeaning. We were enrolled in classes like asterisk ballroom dancing asterisk and asterisk the history of damsels in distress asterisk. Every aspect of our education was centered around reinforcing our submissiveness and femininity. Miss Sandy forced me onto the cheerleading team, where we wore skimpy outfits and performed embarrassing routines, waving pink pom-poms in our hands. It was an unbearable experience, one designed to strip us of any remaining dignity. The administration at CBM never intended to turn us into girls, but rather into the most feminine, humiliated boys imaginable. They wanted to break us, reminding us every day that we were still male. But I walked down the pink hallway, each step calculated and deliberate, making sure to place one foot in front of the other while swaying my hips in perfect feminine form. It had become second nature by now, something drilled into us from the moment we arrived at CBM. As I approached the building's sprawling cafeteria, I could see girls and fellow sissies hurrying to grab breakfast, each one anxious to begin the day under watchful eyes of our superiors. Stepping inside, my senses were immediately overwhelmed by the sight of a grand banquet spread across the tables. Plates piled high with eggs, crispy bacon, savory sausage, buttered toast, and towering stacks of pancakes. The rich, mouth-watering aroma of it all filled the air, and for a brief moment I felt a flicker of joy, something rare in a place like this. My mouth began to water as I stood there, mesmerized by the sheer abundance of food, imagining the warmth and taste of it. Suddenly, a voice shattered the trance I was in. "What are you looking at, Pansy boy?" A girl called out smugly from the table, her voice dripping with condescension. I immediately grabbed the sides of my skirt, performing a quick curtsy as I had been trained, then hurried over to the smaller pink tables reserved for us in the corner of the room. Sitting down on the delicate pink stool, I made sure to smooth my skirt and sit with perfect posture, another learned behavior drilled into us daily. As I looked at the table in front of me, the cold reality of my situation set in once again. My feast consisted of white rice, carrots, celery, chickpeas, cherries, pomegranates, and alfalfa. There wasn't a single ounce of meat in sight. The boys at CBM were deliberately deprived of protein, forced to eat foods high in estrogen content, supposedly to enhance our forced femininity. I glanced over at the girls' tables, where they devoured their protein-packed breakfast with no restrictions, while I silently forced another tasteless spoonful of cold rice into my mouth. Suddenly, a whole slan on my back jolted me forward, causing me to let out an involuntary high-pitched shriek. My plate clattered to the floor as I recoiled in shock, the humiliating sound of my voice drawing laughter from the tables around me. "Sissy," shouted Tina Moore, her voice cutting through the cafeteria like a blade. I froze, recognizing her instantly. Tina was someone I had known in middle school, long before my life had taken this humiliating turn. Now, she attended the same college, where she took full advantage of my new reality. I remained silent, dutifully chewing my bland food the required 21 times before swallowing, hoping to avoid further attention. "Oh, Sally," Tina called again, using the ridiculous name I had been assigned here. "We have to have a little chat." Her voice oozed with superiority, and I stayed still, focusing on taking a slow sip from my glass of soy milk, hoping she would get bored and leave. It wasn't to be. Tina walked up behind me, placing her hands on my shoulders. "Well, Sally, you always were a big pansy, weren't you?" she asked smugly. Her words stung, a reminder of how far I'd fallen in her eyes. "Yes, Tina," I whimpered, my voice high-pitched and whispery, just as we had been trained. Miss Sandy had always reminded us, a touch of testosterone is a touch too many for your vocal cords. I sat there, completely submissive, as Tina paced around me, her presence looming over me like a constant reminder of my helplessness. The power dynamic was unmistakable, and all I could do was sit there, meek and compliant, as she reveled in my humiliation. "You look hungry, Sally," Tina said slowly, savoring every word as if to stretch out my discomfort. "You should eat more." "I've eaten enough, Tina," I replied softly, trying to keep my voice calm, hoping to avoid further escalation. But she wasn't satisfied. She placed her hands on my shoulders, and I felt her fingers tighten, digging into my skin. "I don't think you have, Sally," she continued, her voice taking on a sinister edge. "How are we ever going to fatten you up if you're eating like this?" My body began to tremble under her grip, my weak, feminized frame unable to resist the growing pain in my shoulders. I couldn't fight back. I wasn't allowed to. Just then Esther, one of Tina's closest friends, approached with a large bowl in her hands. I watched as she calmly walked over to the pot of beans and began ladling several large scoops into the bowl, piling it high. She placed the bowl in front of me with a smirk, the unspoken command hanging in the air. I knew what was coming. I stared down at the bowl, my stomach already churning at the thought of what was about to happen. "You need a little meat on those bones, Sally," Esther said as she pinched my skinny arms, causing me to squirm and attempt to escape their grasp. Just then, the bell rang, signaling the end of breakfast. All the sissies rose in unison, mincing out of the room in their carefully practiced manner. I tried to join them, hoping to blend into the crowd and escape Tina and Esther's clutches, but they held me fast. "Not so fast, Sally." Tina spoke in a sing-song tone, her grip tightening. "Eat your beans, and then you can go." I shook my head in desperation. "Tina, please let me go," I pleaded, my voice trembling. "I can't take any more marks this week." "Well, that's your own fault, you little sissy," Esther sneered. "Now eat up." With that, they shoved my face into the platter of beans. I couldn't breathe, my nose and mouth submerged in the cold, slimy mess. I was forced to slurp the beans just to get a breath, the disgusting taste mixing with the panic rising in my throat. My makeup smeared and ruined, bean juice dripping down my face. I wanted to vomit as the cold beans slid down my throat. Tina and Esther's laughter echoed around me, their taunts and jeers filling my ears. The humiliating sounds of my desperate slurping only seemed to amuse them more. After what felt like an eternity, they finally threw me to the ground. I lay there, gasping for air, covered in beans and shame, as they ran off, leaving me to collect myself and face the rest of the day with another mark and another layer of humiliation. Out of breath and still reeling from the humiliation in the cafeteria, I hurried back to my room, knowing that a ruined outfit would earn me more marks than being late. I could feel the sticky bean residue on my face, the chill from the damp fabric clinging to my skin. As I opened the large pink door, my heart sank even further. On my big pink bed, a large box sat ominously, a note placed on top. My hands shook as I reached for it, dreading what I already knew was inside. The note read, "Dear Sally, you're going to be wearing this outfit until the end of the week due to your multiple slip-ups that already happened this morning. We'll speak about more drastic costume changes at the end of the week Miss Hall I gulped, dread creeping up my spine. My hands hovered over the box, not wanting to see what humiliating ensemble Miss Hall had picked for me. But I had no choice. Whatever awaited inside would no doubt be designed to make the rest of my week even more unbearable. I slowly opened the lid, bracing myself for the worst. I could already tell. This day was about to get a lot worse.